Hi, beautiful ones. My intention with the Shamangelic Healing podcast is to be a platform that explores real-life issues and provides you with valuable insights and practical tools to support you on your journey of healing core wounds and reclaiming your power and manifesting a thriving, impactful life that you absolutely love. You see, it's my dream to inspire millions to shine. So if you find these topics valuable, please take a moment and share the podcast and leave us a rave review. This helps the podcast grow and reach the people that would greatly benefit from these insights. Thank you so much for tuning in and investing in your personal development. I'm right here walking this journey with you. So let's dive into this episode. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing podcast. Special treat today. We're going to dive into radical courage and facing fears with Angie Lee. First, a couple quick announcements. Both of us have free gifts for you. So always check the landing page and the links in the show notes, because Angie has some wonderful, wonderful free CBD things. So you're going to share with us what those are. I have a quantum manifestation guided visualization so that you can manifest your dreams faster. And real quick, I want to give a shout out to one of my favorite companies that I've been working with for like 15 years now. And that's Young Living Oils. And before I started the show, I was like, oh, that smells good. This morning, I was in the shower. I go with eucalyptus. I have it in the shower to just like wake up. Same with cedar wood or lemongrass. When I want meditation, I go to white angelica to really connect to the higher dimensions. This morning, I put on joy, which just makes my heart sing. And so I use Young Living Oils because I love the blends and they're super high quality. Pan away, like for pain when you have an ache and pain, and peace and calming. I love this one for my clients, or the bathtub when you want to chill. So anyway, we're going to put a link in the show notes as well so that you can go and get a discount on some oils that might help you when you need to change your mood. If you need to relax, go peace and calming lavender. If you want to open your heart, acceptance and joy. If you want to open your crown, like sandalwood, frankincense, white angelica. So something I use in my healing practice for myself every day, for my clients and for my family. So go check out Young Living Oils. Love what they do. So we'll have the link in the show notes. So love this sister. Angie Lee is just, she's an inspiration to me. We met here in Sedona a while back and just had a blast. Angie is like a whiz when it comes to marketing. She is hilarious, authentic. And, one of her main kind of like life-driven purposes is it pays to be brave. And I love that. So we're going to talk about radical courage in our conversations today, and how to overcome fears. This is something that you, Angie, bring to your clients about how to face your fears and live from your heart and, manifest getting paid for what you love to do. Your podcast is one of the Forbes top 100 business podcasts, and you're just rocking it. And I love following you on social media because I am always guaranteed a laugh and something inspiring and something educational. So like you've got the trifecta of just like bringing it. So Angie Lee, I love you dearly, and welcome to the Shamangelic Healing podcast, sister.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here. You are such a light. Literally, when I met you, I was like, you look and act like you're 24. I'm like, whatever you're using, I will use it. Whatever you're taking or drinking or putting on your face, I'll take it. Like, I was like, how are women in Sedona just like, they glow? I think it's like I don't even know. They're connected to source or it's something in the water. So I love you. I adore you. And I love that you fully see me. And I think that's so cool to meet people who just fully see people. And, there's some people who don't get the humor and don't understand it. And, and it's like, how do you not see me? So it's cool when you are seen and heard and understood, because that's all we all really want. Right.
And permission
Mhm.
to just be who you are, and for people to see that, even if they don't get it, like it, understand it, appreciate it. And this is one of the things when I watch you post, or I watch your videos, or I watch what you are putting out there, there is unapologetic, radical authenticity and total courage.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you a little bit about this whole concept about brave choices, and we're going to talk about brave choices and how that pays off. What's the process? What's the risk? What have you learned? And what I see you accomplishing is a radical courage when it comes to business, a radical courage when it comes to authenticity and how you put yourself out there, and a radical courage in relationships. And I think in these three areas, I think you're walking it,
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah.
I think you're
Oh,
walking it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it shows the way you shine. You're laughing at life. You're having fun, even though there's challenges, even though there's like financial upheaval and a lot of change in the way you're doing business. Like, I see you walking that with
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah.
So, what is one of your most radical, courageous choices that you've made in your life? A fear you had to face that was a big a change in your life?
Yeah, I've had a few, and I think my scariest ones are still to come, to be honest. But
At least you'll be practiced.
yeah, and I feel like this whole weird career that I'm in is an act every day of choosing to be authentic and brave, because I'm paid to be myself. And so um it's this weird decision every day it's almost like I have to choose brave every day based on just this job that I have. But I would say one of the biggest ones obviously was leaving college. I think for a lot of people that was the status quo of success, and you're going to have a bright future. And so leaving college was huge for me, and something that friends, family, people online who read my blog, and at the time it was 10 people, including my grandma, and they thought I was crazy. They're like,
Mom.
who's going to read a blog? Who's going to pay for that? And so I think one of the biggest initial decisions at 19 years old was quitting college to pursue this career and to pursue entrepreneurship. And then I would say leaving my ex a year and a half ago. Gosh, was it almost 2 years ago? Someone that I was deeply in love with. We were supposed to get married, all of the things, and just waking up one day and realizing this is good, but it's not great. And so I feel like a lot of my decisions have been leaving good for great. And that's one of my favorite things now to teach other women, is to give them the permission slip to live an extraordinary life, not just an average life. And a lot of times, to have an exceptional career or an exceptional relationship, you have to leave a good career or a good relationship. And so I feel like those were two of the things that have been really, really scary for me, because they were safe. And I knew what my future was going to be if I stayed, but I still wasn't happy. And so I think I have this curse of just, if I don't love it, I'm out.
I want to get with this for a second, and thank you for that, of just acknowledging I'm changing up, I'm trading up, good for great. Because I think that's why a lot of people don't make the change, because, like, this is okay. When I have clients come and, we're doing our sessions or whatever, they'll have a look on their face like, it's good. And I'm like, if you saw the look on your face right now, it's kind of like a constipated, like, you know, and I'm like, so constipated, like, average,
Yeah.
settling. The body language is just like, no.
Yeah.
But there is a level of denial, and there's a level of it's good enough.
Yep.
And is that a life worth living, a
Yeah.
life that's good enough? And
Yeah.
what's the cost? So, when you were living
Mhm.
good, what was the cost that
Yeah.
the price that you were paying for staying with? kind of good or average or settling. What
Yeah.
cost did you pay, hun?
I think a lot of times for me, it was a stifling of full expression, right? And anytime we're in a job or a relationship that isn't fully authentic or isn't fully our truth or great, we're giving up a little part of ourselves. We're giving up a piece of our soul. And this is why when people are in a 9 to 5 that's good and it's cushy and it pays well and they get paid every Friday and they have a 401k, but they're not fully happy, you can see it in their physical body, their energy, their anxiety, because I believe the universe knows it's not authentic. It's not fully it's not their truest expression of what they're here to do. And so for me, anytime it was the leaving corporate, leaving college, leaving that man who was a good man, just not my person, I felt like I wasn't fully free, right? I mean, when you're choosing bravery, you're choosing freedom. And so for me, being a 7 on the Enneagram, and probably that, I don't know, that has to do with this, but I think one of my biggest values in life is freedom. I just want to be free to express myself, free to do what I want, free to work how I want, say what I want. I mean, it's just freedom. And so when you're so rooted in freedom and this expression of authenticity, what happens is if something is in the way of that, whether it's a person or a job or a boss or a college counselor who told me what to go do with my life, I'm out, right? And so for me, I think what you're giving up is authenticity, fully expressing yourself, and ultimately freedom, right? We're here to be these beautiful creatures, these beautiful, energetic beings who are here to just fully express ourselves. So when you're not in a career that you're obsessed with, or you're not with a person you're obsessed with, I think we know and we can feel it. And then we feel constricted.
In that constriction, what I'm also hearing is, so I don't have my voice, I'm not authentic, and I'm not fully free. And I think when that happens, what I've witnessed happen in myself and when I witness with my clients is that when we're not living in alignment, when we're not living our truth, when we're not living fully free and on purpose and in joy, one of the costs that really comes in is when there's a misalignment, then there's going to be a compensation. So this is kind of like a secondary cost, is that then here comes depression, here comes anxiety, here comes, okay, I'm going to reach for addictions to kind of numb or band-aid the I don't love my career, or it's okay, so because I don't feel great, I'm going to reach for other things to bridge that gap, or I'm just in that it's okay, then a level of depression and anxiety. And I see these correlating when I look at addiction, when people come into the healing practice, when I look at addiction and depression, so emotional health and also physical health, that it has a cost. When we're not in alignment, our body will speak. So a physical cost, an emotional cost, and then potential, addictions.
Yeah.
And then that creates whole other complications in our life. So when we're really looking at the costs, if you're listening or watching and you're having any of these symptoms, that may be correlating to, I'm living a good life, but I'm not living my soul's passionate life.
Yeah.
I love that you said, a counselor told me to do this. And so I think a lot of it is when we are living a life somebody else tells us to live.
Yeah.
And I find that with myself and my clients, where like I reached a certain summit in my life, but it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got a great job. I'm married with 2 kids. I've got a big house. There's lots of bathrooms here. In the house, there's, there's 2-car garage, and everything looks great from the outside, but it's not my summit. This is somebody else's version of success. And so I notice that there's a lot of a correlation here with, I'm successful, but it's not my performance measure.
Yeah. I think we choose significance over fulfillment a lot, right? And so we choose validation from others versus our own true fulfillment. So we end up in jobs or relationships that look good on paper, and you had all the bathrooms, right?
Like there's more bathrooms than people in this house.
That's
that was not freedom. That was like a shackle of like, God, now I got to clean all these bathrooms, or somebody's got to clean all these bathrooms. I'm like, this isn't joy, to
Yeah.
like, oh, are the flowers planted right so the
Oh,
neighbors like it? And I'm like, ah.
that's how you know you've made it when you've got a lot of bathrooms.
It was like, oh, I've arrived,
Yeah.
you know,
But
and
you're
I'm
like, "Mm,
shackled to the house that I own because I got to keep fixing it, and I got to, you know, it's got to look nice, and you
yeah,
know, we've got to replant the flowers, and we need a gardener. Like there were so many shackles that went with that
mm,
dream life that
yeah,
weren't bringing me joy. It just was constriction.
yeah,
So, who do you think are the main people that we tend to want to seek approval from?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what? Who was that for you that was kind of driving your early decisions in your life that affected how, you know, the early choices you made as a young adult
yeah.
that you kind of had to undo or liberate yourself from their opinion?
Yeah, it's interesting when you were talking, I was thinking, imagine if we lived in a world where we course corrected along the way and constantly chose joy versus waiting 10, 20 years and then waking up in a house next to a person who you don't know in a house that you don't actually love and you're working a job that you hate, right? And I think that's the situation for most people is they just keep putting it off. They just keep waiting until tomorrow. But tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Tomorrow is a disease and this is literally the foundation of my book, Ready as a Lie. We wait. We're just waiting. Everyone is waiting for something, right? Waiting for more approval, waiting for something to happen, something to fall from the sky to force you to leave the job or leave the relationship or change the situation. So for me, I think a lot of it was initially my parents, but especially my dad, wanting me to finish college and wanting me to do what looked good on paper. So then he looked good. And just, it just super toxic. But I guess this idea that I had to be successful and go be a broadcast journalist. That was my initial dream, was to be the next Katie Couric or whatever. And realizing that now not only do I want nothing to do with media or the news at all, but I also don't want to go work in Bufu, Idaho and report in front of 5 people. And I just knew that social media was going to be a thing. And so for me, I wanted to create my own content. And so definitely my parents initially, and then friends and family, and a lot of my ex-boyfriends, they thought my drive and ambition was interesting, but it wasn't until the person I'm with now that really fully saw me and is a cheerleader for that versus, okay, what is this stuff you want to go do? This is weird. You want to go be a speaker, you want to be an author, you want to do all of this stuff, but I don't really think you should, or I think it's a little silly. So I think my journey has always been tuning out the noise of those I love the most. Sometimes, honestly, it started with the people I loved and knew the most, ex-boyfriends, family, close girlfriends who thought entrepreneurship was silly and stupid. Oh my goodness, so many stories of people who were friends in high school and college and then, what are you doing with your life? This is crazy. You're going to go make money from a blog, like go get a life, right? And now they hate their jobs and they're like, how could I do what you do? I'm like, oh, that's funny. That's really funny.
Comes back
But
around, doesn't it?
initially it was those I loved most. And now the irony is I have so much love and support from those I love most, friends, family. I surround myself with the most amazing humans, and I've really detoxed all of those negative relationships. But now it's strangers on the internet because my life is so public, quote unquote. And so now I'm dealing with the approval of people I don't even know. And now that is some deep, deep shit I have to work on. So it's crazy how it just keeps shifting, right?
Those are the tests to fear of, like, will you face the disapproval of, you know, we'll get to haters in a second, and, you know, people that are on the sidelines of your life, you know, throwing stones and rocks and so forth. We'll get to that for sure, and how to face that. But I think this is the big one, is that external validation from people whose opinions we value. And we have put their opinion above our own because we hadn't yet learned to trust, even in the face of the fear of, I might lose my mother or father, or I might lose them in my life. I might lose their approval. I might lose their love. These are legitimate fears. I might lose financial support. I might lose credibility. And that's, I think, where the big radical courage comes in, is to disassociate from others' opinions and start to weight more heavily the internal voice, the intuition, the gut instincts, the authentic, God, I keep being pulled in this direction. I I have this passion or this curiosity for this topic, this subject matter, this industry, and to follow the joy, and
Yeah.
and to follow the breadcrumbs of the joy, and that where other people's opinions weight more heavily than your own is the big trap there. And especially when it's people close to us, we tend to think that the people around us most will see us, but they are also seeing through their own agenda, their own capacities, their own programming, their own limitations, their own version of success, and may not have the ability to actually, some won't, some will come around to that, and some never will. Just as you probably had to face that with your family, and now they might have turned from critics to support because they're actually seeing you do something successfully, and it's like it's shattering their limitations. And some won't ever get on board with that. They'll always think it's ridiculous. They'll always think it's a shit show, but it's like, no, it's the Angie Lee shit show, and I love it. It's the
Right.
Angie Lee shine show,
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see it working can blow somebody's mind. It can also threaten the status quo of the relationship.
Yes, yes. And especially if you're dealing with friends or family or spouses who maybe are dealing with narcissism. I've had that in my life with friends and family. And their idea of what success is and what will make them look good. But true love is unconditional. So I always tell people, if the person that is judging you loves you, it's a family member, someone close to you, a husband, wife, whatever, if they truly love you, then they want you happy. If not, they don't love you. I'm going to be super honest right now. That's not true love, right? That's just an acquaintance or someone who thinks they do. But when you love someone, your children, your family, whatever, hopefully your kids aren't making fun of you, but whatever situation it is, I I really think that true love is someone wanting your happiness. They want you to be happy. And so the greatest thing we can do and the greatest gift we can actually give to others is first taking care of ourselves and making sure we are happy. And so for me to go be this incredible wife, mother, sister, daughter, all of these things, I knew I had to do what was in my best interest. So as much as they wanted to take control and have me work a 9 to 5 job and make 50 grand a year and work 80 hours a week and hate my life, well, I would have resented them. I would have hated them. And then that wouldn't have been healthy for the relationship. So for all of the women listening, when you don't do what's best for you in some situations, it's going to end up it's going to end up making that relationship, it's going to end up, what's the word I want to use? It's going to end up damaging that relationship because you're going to resent them. And so I think it's not selfish to do what's best for you. Sometimes it's actually selfless because now you're a happier, more vibrant person. And I think that a huge reason I made that decision at 19 to quit college and pursue this life that I have is so in a few years I can look at my kid and say, listen, I did this, so I'm a better mom. And so I don't resent you as well. Right. So it's like whenever we make a decision to bring our greatest selves and to improve ourselves, I think we're also making a decision for those around us. And it's crazy, right? I mean, a lot of times those people don't pay our bills, right? So you've heard this, if they're not paying your bills, who cares what they say? And that's easy to say, right? It's easier said than done, but it's true. Unless they literally are the person who's living your life, doing the job that you're doing and paying your bills, well, they really shouldn't have that much of a say in what you're doing as far as your career or your life. And it's crazy how much weight we put on other people. This is the number one thing I hear from thousands of women in my community. I care so much what some girl from high school thought of me. My husband doesn't support me. My best friend doesn't support me. My mom doesn't support me. It's like, it's crazy.
And like how much you lose by putting your life on pause to get their support. And it's like, well, what do I have to be? Because now we're shifting out of authenticity. Who do I have to be to make you happy? And that's going to be a different answer if it's my partner. Who do I have to be to make my parents happy? That's going to be a different answer than who do I have to, this friend from high school or this colleague or a peer. Who do I have to be? So then there's this trap of trying to be so many different versions that are ultimately not you. It's exhausting. It's literally exhausting. And
Yeah.
I think your point around resentment is one of those things. And also, if I'm exhausted and I'm depressed and I'm anxious and I'm stressed, I can't be the best me. I'm not going to show up very fabulous as a mother, a daughter, a partner.
Yep.
Definitely people around me are going to get the shitty end of me and not
Yep.
my joy and my happiness. And that's the other cost
Yeah.
is a strained relationship. Then I'm all toxic coming to holidays, and I'm bringing my, overwhelm and stress or addictions into the relationship. And that's what I was doing in my marriage, of just, I'm not in alignment. I'm not in alignment. And I could feel it. And what I was leaning on was alcohol. I was leaning on sugar. I was leaning on taking care of everybody else's life, but not really being honest about this isn't working for me, that I'm not being authentic to me. And that started affecting my relationships for sure, and my ability to be patient as a mother.
Yeah.
And like radical courage
Yeah.
is, there is a lot to it. And for anybody listening and watching, we know what it takes to stand up to a loved one and say, hey, thank you for caring. Underneath, like when my dad, he wanted me to take a sales job out of college. He wanted, oh, you got to listen, go do this classified ad. You make, you make 6 figures in the first 6 months. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I see right through that.
Yeah.
Oh, but you gotta answer this ad, my dad said. And I go, you know what? It's not for me. And I kindly said, hey, thank you, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
And then he'd ask again, and he'd ask again. And then my mom would call on behalf of my dad. Oh, did you answer the ad, honey?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, this is where I stood up, and I'm just like, no, stop. Not another call about this. I am not going to answer the sales ad for whatever widget company. It's not my jam. It's not who I am. Do not ask me again.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love you. I appreciate that you care about me. The answer is no. And I won't pick up the phone if you want to talk about it again. Like I had to just lay it down. And it was a scary thing, but it was also a hell no. Just being able to say, stop pushing me in the wrong direction that you think is going to fit me.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. I also think, it's interesting. I love teaching marketing and sales and business and entrepreneurship and all of that stuff. That's the tangible stuff on paper, right? It sounds all fancy, but at the end of the day, it's become pretty evident to me that my favorite thing to teach and what I'm really here to do is just encourage other women to be authentic and give them permission. I mean, the greatest thing I get in my inbox probably 2 to 3 times a day now is you've given me permission to be weird. Like you give me permission to be fully me. And that wasn't my goal in the beginning. It was to talk about marketing and sales and digital entrepreneurship and all this boring stuff, right? And now I've realized, wow, by me expressing myself and showing up, it's inspired other women and men to do that too. And that's really cool. And so for anyone listening who's afraid to be fully you, you inspire so many people when you are fully yourself. It is truly magnetizing. It's contagious. I mean, when you are you, people want to be themselves. And really, that's all we're here to do. I mean, making money and growing a business and blah, blah, blah. All of that's not really going to matter on our last day, right? What's really going to matter is that we were fully ourselves. And so my job now that I'm even stepping into more is just how can I be so fully me, even if that's ridiculous, that other women and men are watching me or listening and they're like, is that a poop joke? Okay. All right. We're going there. Like, they're just like, we're going there and that's fine. And if I'm not for you, that's fine. But I think that's all we've got. That's all we've got is our authenticity. And so that was the choice I made when people said, oh, you're silly or well, don't be silly or you're weird or this job's not going to work out. And I just kept believing in myself and believing in the fact that I rather man, I will die for my authenticity. Like I'd rather not do this job at all unless I could be myself. And so it's been pretty evident in this last year, the last few years that is what this job entails. And if you're not yourself, I don't know how people do it because inauthenticity is exhausting. It's actually exhausting for the body. It gives you anxiety, can drain you. Gosh, I mean, you know more about this, but the physical body is so connected to your emotions. And so I have seen that the more authentic I am, the more carefree I am. Like, that's why I just laugh at life because I'm like,
right? Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
This is one of the things I noticed about, as far as courageous choices
Yeah.
on your social media, you hold nothing back. What
Mm,
was something, I mean, and it's hilarious when you, instead of a bad review or a hater or
yeah.
something like that, instead of hiding those,
Yeah.
you like showcase that. You're like, oh, you just you actually
Yeah.
read the review, you actually give the person a voice and
Yeah.
all of that, and you actually put the negativity, the bad review in front rather than, "Oh, let's not talk about it, let's hide it,
Yeah.
let's pretend that didn't happen, and let's only showcase the positive reviews." And
Yeah.
I think that that just takes such a level of self-respect, that you know who you are, and that a hater, a critic, whether you know them or don't, whether it's a family member, an in-law, like a past boyfriend, that it just rolls off. And in fact, you're able to showcase it. And that to me is just such freedom, and it's so
Mhm.
courageous. You really have to have a level of self-respect and self-acceptance to be able to do that, and to make fun of it and not take it personally.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
me
you
too.
and Karen. That's you. You're you have to give us a Karen impression. You have to give us a Karen impression.
This is Karen.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'll put
You,
for time's sake, I'll put okay, this is Karen. This is Karen.
this is,
Usually my
she's
hair is
got a
okay.
wig on for those of you
This is
listening. She's
wait,
got this
this is Karen.
hilarious wig on.
This is Karen. This is Karen. I mean, what more do I need to say? This is Karen. Karen is like needs to see the manager, right? Karen is pissed about everything and anything. And I just, man, we got to send love to anyone like that, because to live with that much pissed offness means that you are very hurt and very sad. But I try to make light of the interwebs, because you know what? You could literally do and say anything, and Karen is going to be very upset. And so, yeah, I've created these characters because listen, the bigger you get, like, the bigger you get, you just hear the most ridiculous stuff. And so that's been my experience the last, gosh, probably 20 months is just, that's been the hardest part of this job for me. It's the part I still need to work on. I am not perfect. I have a therapist for it. Like, it is truly the part that's made me want to quit. But then the irony is, like, my whole brand's about being brave. And, pursuing a life of influence means accepting a life of criticism. And that quote is everything to me. And I remind myself of it every day. And especially when I'm saying things that, someone could think a poop joke is very offensive. And I can't, I'm just like, the whole reason we're in these situations is because everyone is so offended. And so I want to make fun of that, and I think JP and a lot of these leaders in the comedy space are showing permission to like make fun of people being so offended. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone feeling that way. And so that has definitely been the hardest part of this job, and the part that I hate the most. I'm like, but again, it's the 1%, right? 99% are amazing and loving, but man, like being a leader or a speaker or whatever you want to call it in this time right now is just so heavy and hard. And so I've chose to use comedy because I'm like, what else am I going to do about it? Right. There's only so much I can control. And so, yeah, I pull out some wigs and I give
I
them
really,
names and, I just do what I'm going to do.
it's a way to transmute it,
Yeah.
and also weight it. Like, somebody that is not in my shoes, somebody that is not living my life, somebody that is not writing a book, putting a show on, putting themselves out there,
Yeah.
somebody that's not doing that, when I have somebody in the stands, like way over here in my life, that like in the nosebleed section of my life, they don't really know who I am, they're not in their own arena of life. And so I recognize that for me, I was weighting them equally, like, oh my gosh, and it's like, wait, you don't get the kind of weight unless you are in the arena with me. And then when I have a friend, like a close soul sister or a soul brother, giving me a reflection of like, hey, you're playing small, or calling me out, then I will weight it accordingly. I'll be like, you know what, you've got a point there, or I'm out of alignment in some way. Then I will look at that and I will weight it accordingly to see,
Yeah.
hey, is there something I can refine here? Is there any aspect of truth to this? But putting yourself out there means that you're going to have people weighing in on information that they're not an expert about, or that they just, something about what you're saying is threatening their truth, their identity, their version of the world. And they have the right to express that.
Yep.
And it's not about stopping freedom of choice. It's just, I'm not going to wait it. I'm not going to let it, hold me back or make me quit. But it doesn't mean there isn't a bit of a negotiation about that, of like, how do I not be affected by this? So what was one of those challenges? Because the same applies to whether you're making a career change, and it's a colleague that might be a hater or a judger or a family member or a complete stranger. What was something you had to kind of face and overcome, and a skill or a tactic that you used to shift that level of, this is going to affect me so much that it's going to knock me over or keep me from this courageous, authentic choice?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I feel like every day I'm doing this, right? And I think this has been the lesson that God has wanted me to really step into is to turn into like a warrior princess, we'll call it. Warrior princess. Warrior sounds so intense. I'm like not intense at all, but it's like this work is warrior's work, and so being such a sensitive woman, I care so much. I wouldn't do what I do if I didn't care. And that's the irony of it. So getting any sort of, I don't like this, I don't like you, I've heard the craziest stuff. It's hard to process. And so I think for me, the biggest thing is now figuring out what do I stand for? What is my truth? And like, am I willing to take my own feedback and my own cute quotes that I've been posting about not everybody's going to like you, and actually swallowing that and being like, oh, okay, this is where that happens. Oh shit. And so I don't
Real time.
I don't work at State Farm. I can't like clock in and be like, okay, done with the job, and then go home and eat some noodles and go to sleep. I'm on 24/7 pretty much. I'm judged for who I am all the time. It's a heavy job. And so I need boundaries around that. It can be really toxic being an influencer. If you do not have a healthy sense of self and who you are off these little cubes and this internet thing, this little matrix we live in, it can be really harmful. And so I'm assessing that now before it gets to a point where it's too crazy. But yeah, I think everything from, oh my gosh, my ex, when I started my show, said, no one's going to listen to your show. People aren't going to pay for podcasts. That's absolutely ridiculous. Like, who are you to think that someone's going to listen other than your mom? And to now be paid full time to podcast, the irony, right? Like, I wish I could just call him and be like, people pay for this. Goodbye. Right. And so I think the best revenge in life is happiness. The best revenge is sending them love, bless and release, and knowing that we're all hurt, and we all just, sad people hurt people. And just, you gotta just read all the quotes, you gotta just take it all in, because it's like, it's a crazy world. And you're right. I love what you said about the weight of it, right? So assessing, okay, is this someone I respect? Is this a friend or someone who actually knows me? Or is this a stranger on the internet we've never even met? So it's really weird how we forget that we need to weight opinions differently based on if this person actually knows you in your heart or not. And then, do you respect this person, right? It's like, I'm not going to take money advice from a broke person. Well, no offense, I'm not going to take career advice from, women unless they, it's like, you're not in the arena. You're, like you said, Brene Brown. You're not in the arena. So this will be a huge part of my book for sure, because man, if I feel, and I'm brave, I can't imagine what it's like for women who are just starting and who are not as brave. It's terrifying. They're like, I don't even want to post anything, because what if someone doesn't like it or they hate me? Or I'm like,
let's be honest, they won't.
I know. I'm like, I don't know what to say.
Like one of my friends, clients who's just like starting her music. She's just following her joy, and she writes these beautiful songs, and they're soul songs. They're about awakening, they're about truth, they're about vulnerability. And I said, like, it's time to get out and start playing some of these more in public, and perhaps recording, so that other people can hear the medicine of your music. And she's like, well, what if people don't like it? I'm like, honey, people won't.
Yeah.
Some won't. This isn't being a critic. This is just like reality check. I don't like all kinds of music. I'm not in the mood for certain kinds of music, but that doesn't mean that, that particular guitarist isn't a badass guitarist and shouldn't really
Yep.
like, do his jam if I'm not in the mood for that.
Yep.
And so I'm like, let's just be out with it. You will not be everybody's brand of music, or not everyone will be in the mood for it, but there are those that will. So to
Yep.
be able to say, find your audience, like her singing in a biker bar,
Yeah.
on a Saturday night, probably not her target audience. And yeah, she'd probably get booed right out of there, but that doesn't mean her songs are bad or that she should stop singing.
Yeah.
And this is about, build it, create it, and the people will come. And the people that don't want it, that's cool. They won't buy it. I'm sure with your podcast, there's people are like, you know what? This ain't my jam. Okay, great. Don't tune in. That's
Yep.
cool. If you don't like my feed, unfollow. It's cool.
Yeah.
You don't have to love it. And this is what's beautiful about so many voices and so many choices.
Yep.
Is that you have the right to say, I don't like this. Awesome. You don't have to. And it's not a personal reflection of me if what I'm sharing, my truth or my message or my platform, or my songs or my book or my opinion about parenting or relationships, if it doesn't jive, that's cool. We're all not here to agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
What is something that you used to hide in your posts or on stage that was still in the closet, that now it's like out, where you didn't want to be like that before because you might lose followers or people might not like it? What was something you closeted that now you're showcasing more?
Yeah, it's so interesting. Oh, it's like, I'm trying to think. There's not like one thing, but I slowly am and I'm still working on this, right? Because I'm always wondering how much to share and what to share. And there is no answer to it. It's what we're comfortable with. But yeah, I mean, like I shared about my parents' divorce and I hid that for a while and how painful that was. And then I wasn't going to share about leaving my ex, but then realizing, hey, you know what? For that one post I made, which I still was very respectful of him, but he was not happy, got 500 messages from women saying, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. And so for me, it's like, well, that just helped 500 people. And so really it's been being brave enough to share those stories still in a respectful way, but in a way where it's like, could this help someone? Then I press post. If no, I'm like, it's not worth it. And so, yeah, my debt, I was embarrassed of being $100,000 in debt. I thought that's weird. That's embarrassing. That's shameful. There's so much shame around debt, and making it normal. Like, hey, a lot of entrepreneurs are in debt. They were in debt. And I was 25 years old. Give me a break. Like, that's actually really normal. So like sharing those stories of that. And yeah, I think I'm constantly always figuring out what's the line of what do I share in order to help someone? Because this vulnerability is going to help someone. Or am I just, airing my dirty laundry? And so, yeah, it's interesting. I think there'll be new things that I'll have to conquer when I'm a mom and deal with all of that, of what I'm going to share, like how much of my kid will I share and all of that. But yeah, I think even the weirdness, going back to funniness and comedy and all of that, I used to, as funny as it is, I used to actually be really more serious in my brand many, many years ago, because I had this fallacy that in order to be successful, you have to be serious, right? I have to wear like a suit when I speak and heels and look like I'm going to prom in all of my videos. And I have to be so serious because then people will not pay me if I'm not, right? And I'm like literally wearing a Crocs hoodie with you right now. And it's just great. And I've realized the more I'm not professional, the more people want to buy from me, because that's authentic for me. And so when I speak now, I wear a crop top and jeans and Nikes. Like, I'm never speak in something that I don't feel comfortable in or isn't an expression of me. And so those little moments of choosing, like, hey, when I go get paid to speak, I might be the only girl who's not all dressed up looking like a news reporter, but that's okay, because that's just not me, and that's awkward. Like, I don't want to be someone else when I'm speaking. So I think that's been the evolution for me, is owning the weird, celebrating the weird, sharing the weird, doubling down on the weird, and knowing, like, you know what, I'm going to go all in. And this is my year of, I think, just like going all in on it. Cause like, yeah, it's scary though. It's scary because people who've been following me for years and years, they saw me very serious and polished. So now they're like in shock and they're like, what is going on? I'm like, oh, that's who I always was. I just wasn't showing you.
Yes. This is more of me. That was 20%
my
of me.
brand
Now
grew
you're
when I was
getting.
Yeah.
more of that. I love what you said about, just going all in with your weirdness and
Yeah.
the having to be so
Yeah.
serious. When the podcast that I did with JP Sears,
Yeah.
um, where I'm on his show and he's on mine, and what we talked about is he's like in the whole fitness arena when he was doing his more like coaching stuff. He's like, I thought I had to be serious, and there
Yeah.
was this whole closet comedian that just kept wanting to be out, but that wouldn't be a viable
Yeah.
career. My parents wouldn't like that. And so we talked about that radical honesty and just following your authenticity. He's like, I am a comedian and I just needed to
Yep.
trust that I could make a living being funny, and that it was
Mhm.
that being serious was killing me, not helping me.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, how he talks about going through those processes, and you too, that says, I'm
Yeah.
just going to go all in and double down. Might you lose some people that want it
Yep.
serious? Sure.
Yep.
And that you'll also gain some people that are enjoying the refreshing authenticity of no makeup, silliness, just making light of haters rather than like spending a week depressed of like nobody loves me, I should quit. And like let's just get these things out in the open. And in the podcast, I knew that I was going to be talking about some vulnerable things, and some of the things I had to call up my kids and say, hey, just heads up, I'm going to be talking about this.
Yeah.
And I haven't hidden, on the podcast. I've talked about, you talk about your breakup, and I call my divorce a marital liberation. And I mean, I
Yeah.
talk really honestly about my dance with alcohol, and where it got to the point where I'm like, I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is a poison. It's
Yeah.
not a medicine for me. I'm leaning on it in unhealthy ways. It's not healthy for my body. It's not supporting my personal development and growth.
Yeah.
And just radical honesty about um, my own dark night of the soul and my own explorations, my own stumbling, the costs, the mistakes that I've made and continue to make, and what I learned from them. And I think that there's a lot of freedom about sharing.
Yeah.
Yes, this is where I've been, and not hiding where I've been. And I speak a lot about my shadow is my friend. It's not my enemy. It's not something to hide. And of course, there's things where I'm like, could I share this? Could I share this? I keep meeting a new edge of radical courage around how vulnerable and how authentic am I willing to be? And you keep moving through layers of that and
Yeah.
finding more freedom. And I'm doing the same. And so I appreciate that you're like, I'm going to double down on that. And it is scary. I want to address this for a second. When you go outside of the known
Yep.
and you take a big risk. Maybe
Yeah.
that's posting something, maybe it's talking about something vulnerable, maybe it's saying goodbye to a good relationship and or quitting college, whatever it is. When you go outside of the known
Yeah.
and you are taking a big leap,
Yeah.
where has it not been great? Where is
Mhm.
something you learned from taking a big risk and
Yeah.
making a big leap?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we don't always,
Yeah.
if we're going into the unknown and it's new,
Yeah.
it's a shit show over there, and we're not masterful, we're not confident, we're not skilled. So when taking big risks, what have you learned in doing that?
Yeah. That's such a good question. I don't think anyone's asked me that. I don't think I've even asked myself that. So this is really good. I'm like, oh my goodness. There's always some sort of payoff. I think the eternal optimist in me is like, well, I learned something even from that. I mean, thinking of events, I've hosted some of the largest female personal development events, didn't know what I was doing. Got, of course you're going to get feedback on everything. So I'm trying to think of, there's never been a time yet where I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have taken that risk though. Like it still always has been worth it so far, and even now, yeah, with comedy, I mean, JP would agree. It's like, you either go all in or you kind of, and that's where I'm at right now, is this weird in between of, am I going to own it and go all in? Because right now I'm tiptoeing. And what happens when you just tiptoe is you get people who are confused because they're like, is this a comedy page? Is it not? Like what? Is there permission to be offensive a little bit? Is there not? And so I'm dealing with that now in this evolution of my career of assessing how much do I want to double down or what I feel good with. And I think that's where it's been hard. Yeah, people thinking it was offensive, a video wasn't funny, but me being like, it is to me. So I'm like, but again, that's comedy. And so there's a lot of confusion with that with me right now. So I would say that's the biggest lesson now is figuring out who do I really want to be and go all in and be her, because the tiptoeing is what's painful, because then it's confusing to them and to me of what I'm willing to, and so that's been my journey with that. But I would say with like events and writing the book now, and I would say everything it's still been a good lesson, I guess.
Yeah, I love that.
The eternal optimist
like
in me
when
is like,
you're
yeah, the
like
eternal
doing the
optimist.
little cha-cha, the little dance. And the thing
Yeah,
is when you go outside of the known, it's not going to be masterful. When you go outside of the safe haven into bigger, treacherous waters,
yeah,
I think one of the things that I tripped over in that is having the expectation of mastery
yep,
when I've never been in these waters.
yep.
And I remember launching something a couple of years ago, this coaching program where I just threw everything in. I mean, like the Cadillac, and I charged like ridiculously high for all of these. I just threw it all in, and it got me to put a page together. It got me to, put the application and do the video and all of the little steps. And I launched it, and like 7 people applied, but 0 people, 0 people signed up for it. And I was like, before I would have said, I should quit this.
Mhm,
I'm a failure.
mhm.
You don't know what you're doing. Nobody likes what you want. And I was like, hey, like I was celebrating because I was courageous in areas to just take the leap,
Yep.
put a page up, try some things. 9 out of 10 things worked. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned when I'm taking big leaps is to not expect perfection and to take it as a learning experience.
Wow.
And when you jump in and then there's like sharks, you're like, okay, let me let me test the water.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the shark infested water. Okay, where's the other cove that has less sharks where I can actually,
Yeah.
or how do I learn how to swim with sharks?
Yeah.
And build the confidence. And I think when I don't expect perfection and I say, you know what, I did this, I completed this, I tried this, and now I can go back and refine it. I can say, okay, this worked. I look at all the pieces and say, there, it's right there. And I think as an entrepreneur or something that is, or anybody just looking at creating a life from your heart, or a life that is your soul path, you're going to try something and then you refine it. You try, you find, you refine, you try, refine.
Mhm.
And every choice will be a learning choice. Every choice will give you the opportunity to receive feedback about something to do differently.
Yeah.
Maybe go all in a little bit more, maybe get a coach and get some guidance, learn a new tool. Like, oh, these are deeper waters. I don't actually have the tool to be here. So let me get some support. Let me learn something. And I find that it's exciting to be in that unknown. It's
Yeah.
scary as shit.
Mhm.
Um, and if I treat it like I'm going to learn, I'm going to improve, I'd rather try
Yeah.
than live a life of regret and wonder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, what has been something where you took a big ass leap
Mm.
and you are so, so grateful, besides like stepping out of college and starting the blog? Are there any other like big ass leaps where you're like, that really did pay off, or it brought me this lesson that opened up another door for me?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is like a chapter of Ready as a Lie is like it's called I Want You to Fail. And this idea of that wasn't a failure at all. You had a forced function and you got feedback. Like, cool, welcome to entrepreneurship. Like everybody's launch is not $1 million launch or $100,000 launch or anything launch. Like that's very normal to happen, but we don't normalize the lessons. We just normalize like the highlight reel, right? um yeah, the event process. You know, it's funny, everything I've done, whether it's been the event or it's been, Mike and I started, my brother and I started Soul CBD, not knowing what the heck we were doing. I want women to really know I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't an expert before I started, right? And there's this fallacy that you have to have all the answers and be an expert, and you're Tony Robbins and then you host an event. It's like, no, to become Tony Robbins, you have to start. You got to just host a crappy, shitty event where 3 women show up. Majority of my events in the beginning were small meetups in Chicago where literally 2 to 3 women would show up. And I just kept showing up. My budget was $0. I handed out these little janky little flyers at the train stations and asked women to show up to my motivational event. Had no idea what I was doing. And then we were going to have 3,000 women in Chicago a few weeks ago. So that is crazy, but it's also not, because I just started, right? So every single time I've done something that I wasn't the expert, and even if it was super embarrassing the first few times, the first video, the first podcast, the first event, Mike and I starting, having just a few customers to start, not knowing anything about the cannabis industry, really, just knowing we wanted to start, it's always paid off. And once you get through the awkward phase, I call it like the braces phase, like in high school where you like acne braces and you're like not sexy. You're like, well, at least I wore the braces though, because now I have nice teeth. But like when you were in it, you're like, I hate these braces. This is so embarrassing. Right. And so I kind of correlated to that, where it's like, you got to go through a little bit of the awkward phase. You got to go through the suck to get to the point where you're like, hey, that was worth it to be embarrassed. That was worth it to be pretty embarrassed that only 2 people showed up or whatever. Nobody showed up, but I tried again. It's always worth it, right? Because if not, you're going to regret not trying. So
And that's how you get better. That's how you get better, is like, okay, I've never ridden a bike before, or both of us at some point had never done a podcast before.
Yep.
And I keep still futzing around with the lighting and the sound and the platform and the conversations. Like, I'm not, great at this. I did not want to do it, but yet at a soul level, it was like, reach more people. I know that these conversations that I'm having one-on-one, like we had some great conversations when we met here in Sedona, and I'm like, wow, we're having some deep conversations here that just somebody else could benefit from these conversations. And it gets me outside of my comfort zone to learn a technology. I don't know what I'm doing with recording. I don't know what I'm doing with asking questions. I how to put this all together, and just to breathe through the learning curve and get help. Somebody has done this before, so you can flatten that learning curve by asking for advice. And this is what I appreciate about your show, is like, and your brand is, hey, let me give you some tips. Let me give you some marketing tips. Let me help, let's talk about what happens behind the scenes with an event or with posting or with marketing. And let me give you some tips. And this is what is helpful if you want to swim, across the ocean to Alcatraz, then get a swim coach and practice, put the reps in, get a coach that knows what they're doing and can help you refine your technique or improve your efficiency, flatten the learning curve. And I had to really get great at asking for support, advice, hiring strategists, experts, or implement systems that could help me be more efficient, because there is an easier way, and you don't have to make as many mistakes as you think if you ask for help and if you invest in learning.
Yeah.
If you're in new territory with something.
Yeah.
I love that you've taken radical courage with love to let go of good and go to great, and to be in a relationship with somebody that absolutely, okay, he might roll his eyes a little bit because I met Clay and he's such a sweetie. And he loves you. Just being in a relationship where you can be you and somebody isn't withholding their love.
Yeah.
And you can be courageous, successful, and have a followership, or be big in your life, in whatever way that is. And to have a person in your life, man or woman, that is not threatened by that. So
Yeah.
you're safe to be you.
Yeah.
So tell me how that feels in relationship of trading good for great and how that looks in relationship.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like in the past, it's been really, most of my life has been, it's been difficult to find a man who understands who I am and what I do. It's been very difficult to explain. It's been always like a power struggle, I would say. And so that was always my insecurity, and still something I'm always working on, is like, who wants to be with someone like that? Because to be honest, and I hope to be this for women, it's one of my goals with my brand. Usually as a woman, when you grow up and you're a powerful woman or an ambitious woman, let's say, most of the women who are powerful are single, or they're with a man who is, they are the masculine energy as the woman, and then he is the feminine. And I'm not attracted to that. And so for me, I was like, where are the women who are super feminine and powerful, and then they are still with a masculine man? It's just been very confusing to study, because I never saw it. I still today, I'm like, I don't have a couple that I really look up to who has that marriage. And so for me, I was like, I want both. I want to be a mom, I want to have kids, but I also want to take over the world. And I want to be the leader in my business, but I don't want to be the leader in the house and the relationship. So where am I going to find that? Because that's very, very rare. Most women, they're either all in, like very masculine energy, we'll say, for just defining energies in the business, and they are in life and in the relationship. I am not. I'm actually very feminine. And so for me, I was like, who's going to be, I want him to lead me, but then I'm also a leader. How is this going to work? And so it's been very difficult to find someone who gets that and wants both of those, and is that into that whole weird situation I'm in, because I feel like it's rare. And so that was honestly one of my biggest insecurities and struggles. And I was so afraid I wasn't going to find someone. To be real with you, I would call my mom just crying, like, Mom, how am I going to find this type of guy? Because I would date so many men who were like, you are friggin' awesome. You are so awesome, but I don't want to be with someone this ambitious. Like, it's just too much. I need to be with the supporter role, and you're not the supporter, you're the leader too. So how are we? And I would be devastated because I was in love with them and so I was like, what's wrong with me? And so for so many years it's been, do I need to change? Do I need to be like Susie Homemaker and just bake cookies all day? But wait, I'm also ambitious, but I've been confused on what is my role in a relationship. And so that's something I'm still always working on, but to be with someone who is finally like, not just oh, that's cool, but a cheerleader of it. Like, he thinks it's awesome. He thinks it's great. He sees my light and my weirdness, and he laughs at my jokes. He laughs at, I'll pay him $5, but he'll laugh at my jokes. So he loves it. Where my ex, great person, good heart, but didn't think, laughed at me, but not with me. And he wasn't witty and funny. And so it was interesting to, yeah, it's been a journey. I mean, it's been interesting. And I think that's what relationships do, is help us to evolve. But it's so cool. And I'm so grateful to be with someone who sees the light and encourages the light, but doesn't, has his own light, but also isn't intimidated by my light. And man, I think the ambitious woman listening is like, oh my gosh, you are speaking to me, because this is the pickle. And I get this in my DM all the time. Angie, I'm an ambitious woman. I can't seem to find a guy who gets it or who wants to be part of it. And I'm like, dang, this is a thing. Like, I'm not an expert in this area, but some relationship coach needs to go have a course around this niche, because it's a thing. And I'm like, it's been frustrating my whole life. And so to be with someone like that I love and adore, that's just so cool about it and awesome. And yeah, it took a while. It took 30 years. And I wanted to meet him at like 22. So, which I'm glad I did it now, but
I love that.
so
yeah, you're aware of the power dynamic, and
yeah, I'm always
that
studying
as a
power dynamics in
yeah.
relationships. Yeah.
And as a woman that has inspiration and drive, that, and so many times I've done this where like, oh, let me turn my light down, is to not threaten, or create insecurity. And I've done that plenty of times where I'm like, but that's not authentic to me. That's not loving to me.
Yeah.
That I have to play small for this to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I love that you're saying, hey, look, be that, but you can also be receptive. You can also be in the feminine. You can allow a man to lead, but you've got to give space for them to lead. If you're always doing the doing, if you're always taking the initiative with the asking out, if you're always taking the initiative, then you are the masculine in the relationship, if we're not allowing that energy to come in, and if there isn't space for it. And that's where you had to let go of a good relationship and then be in the space of knowing I I deserve, I will attract better. There has to be that vibration of there is something better, even if there's a time gap between good and great.
Yeah.
And there may be a wobble of doubt and uncertainty. And yet, as long as there is this belief that it's got to be like this, it's got to be great or nothing.
Yep.
It's got to
Yep.
be great. And looking at our own part as women, or anyone listening, this is for any of us that are in a power struggle with our relationships, is saying, am I being too masculine? Am I
Mhm.
being hyper feminine?
Yeah.
And can I find a balance within me so that I can also allow somebody to come forward, that I don't have to play small, but I don't have to manage the relationship either. They have the ability to also come forward.
Yeah. You're
Um,
making it sound so like you're so beautiful with it. You're like, making it sound so easy. And it's like, oh, it's friggin' hard. My business has always been somewhat easy for me. I'll admit it. Like being brave and investing money and entrepreneurship has been like, entrepreneurship was in my blood. It was since diapers. Like I was born to do this. Like that is clear to me. But ironically, my hard part of life has been relationships, where most of my friends, it's the opposite. They've got great relationships, but sucked at work and their career. And I'm like, dude, I've got the opposite problem as you. And then I realized there was other ambitious women in this situation. So I was like, wait, what? Why? I don't want to choose. I don't want to choose. And so I literally got my tattoo is an ampersand, so an and sign, because it became clear to me a few years ago. I was like, I don't want to choose. I don't want to choose between motherhood and being an awesome mom and the whole like I've got a garden and kids and chickens and the simple life. But then I also go speak to thousands of people on stage, and I have a great marriage and I have a great job. Because most women I've met, they either have a great job and or a great marriage. It's very rare to find both. So that's been my mission, to not only hopefully fulfill that, but then also find leaders who have that, because I don't have a ton. And so it's been hard and very confusing for me as a woman to grow up in this time where women are now becoming more powerful and stuff, but then also marriages are getting more messed up. So I think honestly what's going on is there's a lot of these power issues and men don't know how to handle it. Women don't know what to do. It's just really messy. And so I'm kind of on this mission to, one, find more mentors in that space that I can see. And then two, like hopefully maybe just be it myself, I guess.
and that
Turn
takes,
out, right?
it takes, I mean, well, the courage in relationships, if we look at it, courage in relationships is to let go of something that isn't it. I think in that, attracting that is the courage of self-reflection and internal awareness that says, am I overcompensating? Am I trying to prove myself? Am I allowing, is there space in my life for someone to come in?
Yeah.
And am I saying yes to the wrong thing out of loneliness? And I think there's a lot there to negotiate, so that, and do I believe that it's possible? Do I believe that there is this relationship, even if I don't see it modeled in lots of places?
Yeah.
Do I believe that it's possible? Do I, have this
Yeah.
belief that it is this and that, not either? And so
Yeah.
that is a courageous belief, even
Yeah.
if you're not experiencing it in the moment, and now you are.
Yeah.
What is something in your relationship, and then we'll wrap up shortly. I want to hear about your free offer that you have for people.
Yeah.
What is something in your relationship that, because it's even maybe more difficult, like you said, in relationships to be courage, what is something courageous that you have done or faced in your relationship presently that is stretching you, that's uncomfortable,
Mm.
that is paying off, even though it might be challenging? Or
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good question. Ooh, yeah. I don't know. I think again, like I said, us, him and I having these conversations around this, like who does what. And I think roles are beautiful in life. I think polarity is necessary. I think whatever relationship you're in, whether it's masculine, feminine, gay, straight, whatever, you need a masculine and a feminine energy. And so I think identifying that and figuring out who does what is always the dance. And so I think we're always having those courageous conversations around that, because I'm in a place where I'm trying to figure out what does that next step look like. And I'm really, really looking forward to motherhood right now more than my career. And so for me, I'm like, oh, I'm going into that phase. But then I also have this pressure to keep being who I am and my identity around this brand. And so I think having those courageous conversations around what is that going to look like? Like, is Angie going to do both? Am I not? Am I going to take a year like off? And what would that look like? And so it's pretty weird, because I'm like, I don't know the answers yet. So it's just the next stage of however it happens, it's going to be awesome. But yeah, I think figuring that out is going to be my next big step in life.
And that's it. I think that as far
Yeah.
as feminine and masculine goes,
Yeah.
in life within us individually, the
Yeah.
feminine part of us that feels and listens and is sensitive to what's working and what's not, whether it's a career, a relationship dynamic, or I'm not being authentic, or whatever it is that feminine part of us is the one that can sense it. It's also the part of us that is guiding our passion forward. And if we're listening to intuition and feelings, then we pass it over the masculine within ourselves to take action, break up, step back, leap forward, ask for help, and say, I'm going into the unknown. That's more of the masculine energy that does that. And then it feels like once you dive in, as you navigate this next chapter of the unknown, all of us, then it's going to be, well, I jumped in. Now I need to make the adjustments. And is it too much? Did I overcompensate?
Yeah.
Is this the right alchemy? I'm taking this many months off, but now I feel like I want to get back into doing, but rather than 100% dive back into business, can I do it incrementally? And then it feels like this is intuitive living, and the feminine listening, then the masculine taking action, and just that's conscious living.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Yeah.
Sister,
You're way better at explaining this than me. I'm like, it's hard to put into words. I'm not the expert at it, but it's like, it's so fascinating to me though.
But you're not afraid to look at the next
Yeah.
next chapter of life, saying, hey, I'm going to throw it all up again, and see what lands, and we'll just kind of see. And that level of willingness to go into the unknown and find the and allow the alchemy to happen, the adjustments, within a relationship, within a career, within a business, to allow it to keep being flexible, that we're not stuck to that brand that you're married to, that it can't evolve as you change.
Yep.
So, okay, sister, tell us about, put on your Karen. Here's my Swami hat.
Karen fell. Karen fell.
Okay.
Karen, come back.
Okay.
Oh my God, I love that hat.
I know. Isn't this awesome? This is my little Swami hat. So let's seriously talk about free offers. What do you have for our listeners, Karen?
You guys get a free day with Karen just to hang out. You can just hang out and complain.
Just so you know how to properly hate post, you get a free coaching session with Karen on that.
You get a free coaching session with Karen if you want to know how to be a troll on the internet. I will give you 60 minutes free teaching you how I leave mean comments, okay?
So valuable.
You just inspired it. I'm going to go do a story after this. It's like, hey guys, free call with Karen. Just want to know how to be a turd and just be offended by everything.
Right? How to leave 1 star. I love this one. Okay, we have to put the link to that one post where you're
the video?
Well, 1 star is better than no stars.
Yep. Amen. Amen. And it's like the people leaving that, I'm like, do you have a pod? Oh, you don't have, that's right. Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Crazy.
So you're putting yourself out there. Okay. So what is the free gift that you would love to share with our audience?
We'll gift you guys, oh my God, I have some here. Okay. These are little packets. We'll gift you guys Soul CBD. This is my brand with my brother and I, mysoulcbd.com. We have gummies, tinctures, a pet line, sleep line. We've got all the things. If you're in pain, anxiety, we've got it all. So we're going to gift you guys some stuff.
Yes. So we'll have the link in the show notes to that. We'll have the link in the show notes to that. And that way you can get, because I was just visiting my mom, and she had all of this neck pain, and just the CBD on her body, and CBD to help her sleep. And that has been helpful to me to manage stress at different times, and especially for pain. And so this is something that it's not going to get you high. It's medicine for your body to really help with stress.
Yep.
And so go check that out. Go check the company out, and we'll give you some free goodies. Yay! Where can people find you and Karen?
Yes, you guys can find me at the Angie Lee Show on iTunes or Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to podcasts, at Angie Lee Show on Instagram, and then angielee.com. Come say hi. And if you're a fellow weirdo, well, welcome.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We are so grateful. Your podcast, go check out Angie Lee on Instagram. And I'm so grateful that your radical courage, you're, showing people how brave, courageous living pays off.
Yeah.
It pays off. And I believe that you're walking it, whether it's double down on being silly or saying no to good and saying yes to greatness. You're truly an inspiration.
Aww. Thank you. I adore you. Thank you guys so much. This was so good. Probably one of the best conversations I've ever had on a show. So you win.
Oh, what?
You're the best.
You're the sweetest ever. So grateful to everybody. Thank you, Angie. And thank you for everybody for tuning in. Go get the free gift that is the CBD goodies that Angie has for us. And then also the Young Living oils. I'm actually sniffing joy. Oh my God, I'm sniffing joy right now. So go follow that link to get discounts on Young Living oils, and also the free link to a quantum manifestation guided visualization. So let's really take advantage of these last couple months of 2020. Let's finish strong. So go check that out. We'll be having more on our coaching program for the new year. So stay tuned for that. And come and visit me on shamangelichealing.com. If you found this was inspirational, motivational, humorous, authentic, and inspiring in some way, please leave us a rave review. And thank you so much for tuning in. Share the podcast with someone that you love or someone that you don't, that needs it.
Or someone that you don't,
yeah, that you think might need it.
Whatever.
Right? And go forth, be silly, be brave, be courageous. We love you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, you can find me on shamangelichealing.com. That gives you the opportunity to see all of the upcoming events and offerings. If you found this conversation inspiring, helpful, valuable in some way, please share it with another sister or brother that you think would benefit from this conversation. Leave us a rave review. That always helps us. And blessings, everybody. Go forth and shine. Hope you enjoyed this.